Welcome to Carl's Keto Kitchen. I'm Carl Franklin, carlsketokitchen.com. This is what is this? This is a live stream and video series all about cooking for the ketogenic diet. But you know what? It just turns out that it's just good cooking too. So we're going to talk about Beurre Monte today, sometimes called Beurre Fondue, right, Kyle?
That's right.
Yeah, so either one of those, it's essentially a mounted butter, which is one of the foundations of French sauces. It's called like a mother sauce, right? So essentially what you end up with just using a little water and butter is a thick, emulsified butter. And that you can use as the base for a lot of sauces. So Chef Kyle's going to show you how to make a Beurre Monte today, and then we're going to elevate it with some other flavors and put it over a pork chop, which we have right here. So first thing we're going to do is season the pork chop and then sear it. And I've just got some salt. I've got some pepper. And there's a secret spice today. It's called fennel seed. Now, when I told Richard Morris, when I told Richard was using fennel seed, he's like, you should toast the fennel seed and then crack it up in a blender or a spice generator or something like that. And I don't know, I kind of like it just as is, because when you roast these seeds, the oils come out, and that's exactly what I want, and they give it a little crunch and crisp. All right, so we've got a really hot smoking pan over here. We've got a pork chop that has been dusted with salt, pepper, and fennel seed, and we're going to sear it off. Now, searing is easy to understand. You're just going to not touch it. There's no fat in the pan also. It's just a very smoking hot pan. So it's a dry sear. Now, the mistake a lot of people make when they sear is that they move it around. You don't want to do that. You don't want to touch it for at least 2 or 3 minutes. You want to just let that thing sizzle and form a crust on it. What is that?
I feel like it's some residual fat that was left in the pan.
Okay. Nothing to worry about, though.
Nothing to worry about.
Nothing that won't come off with a Brillo pad.
That's true.
Flavor.
It's all flavor.
Deglaze the pan,
It'll turn into
right
flavor.
up. Yeah, that's right.
Excellent.
Flavor town.
Flavortown.com.
That's been taken.
So just to let you know what we're going to put in the sauce, once we start with the Beurre Monte, we're going to deglaze the pan with a little Pinot Grigio, a little white wine. I've got some lemon juice, the juice of a whole lemon, or half a lemon. I've got the zest of a whole lemon. I've got some chopped fresh rosemary and some chopped fresh garlic. And so all of those things are going to combine with the Beurre Monte, which, remember, is going to be a thick butter sauce, and just make an amazing sauce. What do we got?
Any oil in the pan?
No, there's no oil in the pan, Paul. And the reason for that is you just want to use the fat that is on the pork itself. And use a fatty cut of meat, too. You just want to put it right down and let that crust form. And we haven't yet flipped this, and it's getting to be about that time. Shall we do it now?
Of course.
Yeah, all right. Look at that.
Looking good.
I'm going to take a picture of that for the blog post.
Sometimes I find searing meats, it's good to push
Yeah.
it down just to make sure that everything is connected to the pan.
That's a good
You get
idea.
a nice hard sear.
Good idea. Chef Kyle, by the way. So, as a matter of fact, I first learned about Beurre Monte from the man holding the camera, Robert Ramsey, or just the Rob man, the Rob cameraman. Anyway, I didn't know about this, and it's almost embarrassing, and neither did Richard Morris. Because, here we are, like, we love sauces. I've made hollandaise, I've made béarnaise, I've made all sorts of sauces, bordelaise, and I didn't really know the the term for this. And the French use butter to thicken anything liquid all the time. We're going to do a deliberate Beurre Monte. So we're just going to do butter and water and thicken it so that you can see how it is just by itself. But most of the time, Kyle, when you make a Beurre Monte, you're going to deglaze the pan and you're just going to add butter to the pan, right? And
Sure,
just
for
whisk it up
a pan sauce, yeah.
for pan sauce.
Yep, I'll turn the heat off a little bit so that the butter doesn't immediately split.
Yeah,
And then I'll add the butter to it, cold butter.
yeah.
And, stir it. You don't want to whisk it too much or it's going to split itself. It's
Right.
kind of a balance of hot and cold.
Right,
when you're
right.
doing it.
And you don't want the heat up too high either.
Not too
Yeah,
high
it'll
and
split.
not too cold,
Right.
basically.
So we're going to make that while this is finishing in the oven. So this technique of searing meat and then finishing in the oven is used all the time, and I do it at home a lot. So the oven is at 400 Fahrenheit, and we're only going to put it in for about 5 minutes. That's it. That's all it takes to get a nice medium on the pork. And what do you think? Time for the oven?
I think so.
All right, let's do it. So now while that's going on, we're going to make the Beurre Monte. We need about a tablespoon of water for every stick of butter. Okay, that's the secret. We need some water, don't we?
I have
Look
water
at
right here.
that.
Ready to go, Kyle?
Boom, boom, boom.
You get
So a
pan nice and
tablespoon of
hot.
water. We got a stick of butter cut up, and it's chilled. You want cold butter.
Yes, you do.
You're going to let that boil.
You're going to let it boil till it almost is completely evaporated, really.
Right. Too much water, it'll be kind of loose. I know on the show before I said a third of a cup of butter to a stick of, a third of a cup of water to a stick of butter. That's too much water. So it's still thickened up. It was still fine. But you only need a tablespoon. So he's only going to throw in a few ounces of butter at first.
About a tablespoon, about 2 ounces. I'll put that in. Sure.
And he's immediately going to start whisking it. And you only start with a little butter at first until it emulsifies. Now the water is the key to this because if you're just melting butter, you get melted butter and the milk solids separate and the oil separates, and that's not what you want. You want it to all emulsify and thicken. And you're sort of shaking it like a Jiffy Pop container now, you know? Not too hot, not too cold. Continuing to whisk it and get some air into it. You can see it's even starting to thicken now, right?
Yeah. A nice whole fat butter like this Pluger or the Kerrygold is
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, this is Kerrygold.
You can tell
Oh yeah.
that's nice and thick. If we had a spoon,
Grab us a spoon for. Thanks.
since this is a
Talk to me about the difference between Beurre Monte and the other.
a Beurre Monte is to mount with butter. So it's normally when you have a sauce, you have your white wine, it reduces. You would mount butter into it to thicken it. That's Beurre Monte or mounting with butter. Beurre Fondue is when you make this, as we're doing here, just a little bit of water and then the butter in there to make a nice thick sauce. And what the French call it, when you get the right consistency, is nappe, which means
Yeah, it coats the
that
back
it
of the
coats the
spoon.
back of a spoon just like that.
Yeah.
And that's really what you're looking for.
I mean, that's kind of stuff you only get with starch and custard, right? I mean, this is just water and butter. This is the amazing thing to me.
And again, you're just really watching that you don't take it too hot and you don't let it get too cold.
Right.
And this whole kind of shaking it on the
Yeah.
piano there is just a restaurant thing.
So somebody asked, why is it in the oven? To finish. So we basically have it in a 400-degree oven to cook through all the way. Because we didn't want to sear it so hard that, it gets like thick rubber on the outside and then, and then cooked on the inside. So it's just a typical technique. You sear the piece of meat and then you finish it in the oven.
There we have it.
Yeah, look at that. Look how thick that is.
You can just see it.
Now what's great about this is that you can just put this on a warm surface, doesn't have to be hot, and you can keep it there all night while you're cooking. And then you just add it to the sauces that you're going to make, and it thickens it up, just like a thick gravy. Look at
There it
that's
is.
just beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
So we have probably another couple of minutes before the chop comes out.
Sure, I'd say about 3 minutes or so to kill
right.
here.
Yeah. So when the chop comes out, what we'll do is we'll deglaze the pan with some white wine, and then we'll take a little bit of that butter, and we'll just cook down the garlic a little bit to let that garlic get all happy. Then we're going to add all the other ingredients, and finally we're going to add the Beurre Monte to it, or the Beurre Fondue.
Sure.
And yeah. Let me see if I can see. Steve Siegel, hi. Brenda Zorn. Yum, butter. Everybody's just like, yum, yum, yum. Oh, by the way, I've been fasting for a few days, and I had 7 days total, but I had a break. So I did a 3-day fast, and then a 4-day fast, and then a 3-day fast. So this is my 3rd day of a fast. Brenda Zorn, she's like my fasting guru, so I wanted to shout out to her. So it's been we did a version of this a couple hours ago just to test it out, and I couldn't have any, but everybody here loved it. So
It was delicious.
it was delicious.
Trust us.
Looked delicious, and I've made this at home too. All right, I think we could probably take it out now.
Yeah, I
don't you?
think we're looking good.
Yeah. You only want it in there for 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, we're looking good.
Let's get a plate. Can you grab me a plate, Thor? Oh, that's all right. That's okay.
Yep. Be sure to have a towel for a hot handle always.
So let's take this out and let it rest while we make the sauce. So we're going to turn the heat up a little bit, deglaze the pan. Now I measure wine very, very carefully. Yeah, that's about right. That was probably a third of a cup, half a cup, something like that.
Make sure that you turn the heat off the pan away from the fire.
I usually lean it away from myself.
Yeah.
If the heat kicks anything off.
All right, now we're going to just put a little bit of butter in there and take the garlic and
We're butterless.
that's all right. You can use some of the Monte.
Sure.
Just a little of that. It is butter after all. Get that garlic all happy in there. Yeah. Now we're just going to add the rest of the stuff in here. Some fresh rosemary, lemon zest. Lemon zest is where all the flavor is in lemon. But we're going to put lemon juice in there too.
Beautiful. Good call. There we go.
And now we're just going to whisk it all up.
Apologize.
You can see as we heat this up again and get some air in it. Oh, that's looking amazing.
Just kill that heat.
That's going to be tasty right there.
Looks beautiful.
How do you rescue the sauce if it splits?
Well, in this situation, I mean, I don't know, is cream a keto?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
A little bit of heavy cream can always save a butter sauce. I'm not sure exactly what it is from a science standpoint, but a little heavy cream will always bring it back, have it thicken again.
Right.
In a lot of cases, you might even put a drop of cold water or something cold. That's why we use cold butter.
Right.
On a molecular level, it helps it to kind of, link back up.
I'm going to turn up the heat on there because with the lemon juice and the wine and stuff, it sort of thinned out a little. But now that we're turning up the heat and we're just whisking it, you can see it comes back to thick.
Let me pull it over here so I can see it flipped over. That's a great pan sauce right there.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. And it smells delicious.
It does.
Now it comes to plating. I mean, whatever you want to do with plating. What I did before I plated was I drizzled the sauce around the meat, and that worked out pretty well. Throw some fresh herbs on there if you like.
Shall I?
Go ahead.
How would you know if the butter split?
How would you know if the butter split? Well, you'll see two consistencies in the pans. You'll see a thick a sauce, and then you'll see a thinner version of it. So basically, it turns into two consistencies. And what you really want is an emulsification, which is what we have right here. That's just like perfect.
Yeah, that came out great, guys.
Yeah, it did.
Thank you.
So, what did we learn today? Well, we learned how to make a Beurre Monte, or a Beurre Fondue, just from butter and water. Make a thickener, a thick sauce that you can then add to any kind of pan drippings or other flavorful ingredients to make a pan sauce that will knock their socks off. That's it. I'm Carl Franklin. And by the way, if the 2 Keto Dudes and Carl's Keto Kitchen mean a lot to you, why don't you go to patreon.2keto.com and help us help our retirement fund. Thanks very much. We'll see you next time. What happened? Oh, nothing.